Nigeria. I would not want us to start debating it right now, but for those of us that are in Nigeria, because I believe that we have other persons joining this call from other neighboring African countries and possibly from other parts of the world. So this is not completely the case for Nigeria, just like I've said. Another thing about democracy, the kind of democracy that refined economies, like I've said, practices, is that it allows voters to decide how their country or community is run. And of course, as well, adults decide on their everyday life. And the only people that are allowed to vote is the passport to be able to vote is if you are 18 years and above. This also is not the case with Nigeria. In the last election in Nigeria, we had, I don't want to say pockets of issues. I think it was widespread of cases where children below 18 years were actually actively involved in the voting process. This is what democracy should be, as against what we see as democracy in Nigeria. Now, talking about the link between democracy and human rights, I am very deliberate in using the word human rights because, of course, we should know that digital rights is also a human right. Democracy provides or should provide an environment that respects human rights. And these rights include right to life and liberty, freedom of opinion and expression, which also can be seen online when we want to align it to digital rights now. Permit me to use an example of myself. I was privy to watch the video that was shared before now, just to keep our participants engaged. And I saw how the rights of that particular young man was being violated. I remember in 2018 or so, in my home state in Nigeria, where a sitting governor, as at that time, had his son run into a child, a secondary school boy, because he was driving recklessly. And the best they could do as at the time was to visit the family and then do more like a compensation or pay something. And I just went online, on Facebook, and I made a post about how unjust that was. And 2 or 3 days afterwards, I got friends that work with the DSS advising that I should just find somewhere safe and then run to, because my post on Facebook has drawn the attention of the government, and like that. So you see a lot of human rights abuse, your freedom of expression being trampled upon, especially when it's expressed online, and like that. So there are a wide range of issues that connect to this particular area of our fundamental human rights, which is the freedom of opinion and expression, particularly when it is expressed online. We also have, when it is freely expressed, the will of the people is freely expressed and exercised, people have a say in decisions and can hold decision makers to account. And that is where we usually get the fracas. That part where people have a say in the decision making of government and can also hold decision makers to account. Usually, if democracy is going to work, there should be systems that allow for people to be able to hold their elected leaders to account. It is on these basics that you get leaders on their toes and then keeping to the promises or the manifestos that they had before being voted to office. Now, we also see in a case where democracy works right, women and men have equal rights and all people are free from discrimination. This is a big one. Women and men having equal rights. Few weeks back, there was a protest at the National Assembly, and then in other states in Nigeria where women had to protest their exclusion from decision making and from other key things that pertains their life and their livelihood in Nigeria. I was actively involved in that process at the time as the focal person for the Supporting Advancement for Gender Equality campaign in Nasarawa State, which had us engaging with lawmakers to see to it that the 35% affirmative action was passed, and then other rights that allow women to actively participate in politics and governance was allowed. At the state level, we got a lot of thumbs up and support, but at the National Assembly, at some point they were in between. They did not want to publicly push out their position. But when we got to the peak of the whole campaign and advocacy, we saw their interest finally play out, which was a no to the gender bill that was being pushed. So again, to add to it, that is not what democracy should be. But unfortunately, that is what we have in Nigeria. Now, what then is digital rights? Because the essence of this conversation is to see how we can link what digital rights is to democracy. True democracy, what democracy should be, not what we have right now as democracy. Now, digital rights. Digital rights are those human rights, underlying human rights, and legal rights as well that allow individuals to access, to use, to create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication network. I am trying as much as possible to bring up definitions for some of these terms that are simple, that everyone will be able to understand. One key thing about digital rights is they are human rights, and of course they are legal rights. So every person is entitled to this right. You have the right to be able to access digital media. You have the right to be able to use digital media. You have the right to be able to create the content yourself. You have the right, of course, to also be able to publish via the internet or any platform you decide to express yourself, using electronic devices. This concept of digital rights is particularly related to protection and the realization of existing rights. Okay, so of course we have established before now that the human rights includes a range of rights, one of which is our right to life and liberty, freedom of opinion and expression, and then other rights. So it is directly or particularly related to the protection and realization of these other existing rights. Such, for example, the right to privacy and freedom of expression, which we do not get to really see, especially for many of us that are young and get to frequently explore or engage online. You do not get to enjoy that right to privacy, as such. You do not also get to enjoy the right of expression as such. I'm talking about the Nigerian context now, and somehow you see this playing out in other African countries as well. I think recently, around June or so, around 5th June 2021, up until sometimes in January 2022, we were plagued with the popular Twitter ban. At a time when finally the ban was lifted. Some of us had we had a hard time getting back to use that platform because of the disconnect for over 6 months. You can only imagine the level of damage that had on business owners, young people that should have had access to certain opportunities, and like that. So these are just a few of the issues that plague the exercise of our digital rights in Nigeria. So I have said that in the context of digital technologies, especially the internet. So that's that for digital rights. I don't know if I can be paused in between to have people make their contributions, or I will just have to go on. And then when I'm done, we can now engage the topic together.
Feel free if you'd like to pause a little bit and take in questions. It's okay. If you would like to also complete and then take, maybe we can actually do that because we've got about 10 minutes to go. So maybe you can just wrap up your session and then we take a couple questions.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So
thank you.
At the center, thank you very much. At the center of digital rights is humans. Okay, so our engagement online, of course, as technology advances, we get to see machines also, having certain rules online. But the idea behind online engagement is to have humans network, and engage. So if we talk about digital rights, the first thing that should come to mind is human and human rights. That's just to establish that. Then, now, let's look at the challenges to digital rights in Nigeria. I have been able to mention a few, but just to spotlight challenges to digital rights in Nigeria. Since we are using Nigeria as a case study, it is no doubt that Nigeria is one of Africa's, the argument still continues, but let's give it to Nigeria, that is the most populous and the richest country by GDP in Africa. Maybe because we have statistics that ordinary people like us might not be able to explain, but that is what we have, or that is what the data says. Now, youth make up to like half of the country's population, or which amounts to over 200 million. And these young people are active players in this nation, especially online. Now, if we look at the digital space in Nigeria, it is fast growing. Financial technology industry and increasing internet penetration, fast growing. As a matter of fact, the level of growth stands at 51% as we speak, based on current statistics. Nigeria data and digital rights ecosystem is evolving rapidly. This is also a fact. And because of this, citizens need to keep pace with the emerging issues. We are going to look at some of those emerging issues. Some of the frontline issues are all stakeholders, including young people, women, men, teenagers. I was listening to one of the panelists when he was talking about the rights of children, and there's something around the rights of children. Yeah, so sometimes we get children also engaged online, and like that. And whoever is engaging online, the rights of these people needs to be respected and upheld. Now, some of the frontline issues all stakeholders must take note of citizens' data protection. The statistics the data I was able to interact with shows that about 14 African countries have enacted a data protection legislation. One of them is Burkina Faso. We have Nigeria there as well. And I'm very proud that we have Nigeria there, and then 12 others Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Kenya, Liberia, Malawi, Morocco, Now, but the issue is we get to have some of these laws in place, but the problem usually used to be the level of implementation, of these laws. Okay, so we have the data protection law. How much of data protection do we enjoy, online in Nigeria, or how effective are these laws, in Nigeria? These are some of the issues that we need to look at. Then there's also the freedom of expression online, which I've highlighted earlier. A few months back, a few weeks back, right now, we woke up to see something online about an activist in Kano, Mubarak Bala, that was sentenced to like 24 years imprisonment because of a Facebook post. Yes, so he made a Facebook post, and those that have the power felt, this post is blasphemous, and the best way to engage it, or the best way to go about it, is to take him to court, and now he's sentenced to 24 years imprisonment. Now, so there's something this does to every other young person that is online. There's this fear to not want to effectively express yourself if you are online because of past antecedents. What has happened to those that there. As a matter of fact, I have had family members advise me, guy, you need to slow down some of these your posts, and some of these your engagements online. These are few of the things that many young people go through, in trying to suppress their freedom of expression and their rights to internet and internet usage. Now, there's also the problem. There's also.
Sorry, Peter, if we can just round off your session a little bit so that we get maybe one or two questions. But yeah, it's been very enriching.
Okay, so let me just round off. So there's also the problem of access to internet and internet-enabled devices. This problem is one problem that we see women and girls women and girls face more. My work allows me to engage more in rural communities, which is why seeing your invite to be a panelist in this what happened late, so you get to see so many millions of women, in rural communities that do not have access to internet, and even internet-enabled devices. You can imagine how they have been cut off from opportunities that they should be able to access online, especially opportunities to learning platforms, opportunities for business to boost their economic livelihood, and all of those sorts. UNICEF says, in conclusion now, UNICEF says 50% of Nigerian women are offline. They cannot access the internet. Those online, you can only imagine the kind of violence some of them goes through, ranging from cyberbullying, stalking, and many others. I just hope I've been able to say a few things that will allow us engage and have a conversation around the connection between digital rights and democracy in Nigeria. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Peter, for taking us through democracy as a concept and as well digital rights. What is the nexus? What is the connection? And we find that mostly, I think, across the African continent, we have challenges where we have this concept that we're trying to pursue democracy in different countries. And on the other hand, we have violations of fundamental rights and freedoms, which also eventually tends on digital rights. And we find that there are a number of violations that happen. So it's good as well that you're able to also unpack, some of the issues that are, that are being faced within Nigeria. And I'll invite colleagues here to be able to ask questions as we, move towards wrapping up this session. But it's been quite interesting, just following and just trying to find those dots and see what the correlation is between, this concept of democracy as well as digital rights. I'm just checking in the Q&A. I don't see any question right at this point, except a big thank you, for this program. I think someone was following intently in the session. Let me just check as well in this other function if we have any questions. No questions from this end, but I'll just pose one question for you just to highlight, what you are doing as well as Youth Hub in the space to be able to also, I think, promote an enabling environment for digital rights, especially as we're talking about this concept of democracy. How have you as an organization also utilized, the space within which you're operating within to be able to better shape democracy, so to speak, a democratic society that advances digital rights?
Okay, so beside my work with Youth Hub Africa that allows for us to program around governance, around democracy in Nigeria, in doing that programming, we ensure that young people, women, persons with disability, because I'm looking at the theme for the year for this particular event, which is towards a digitally inclusive rights and rights respecting Africa. We always ensure during our programming that women are actively involved, young people involved, and persons with disability are also involved. And one of the platforms we use for our engagement is social media. So you get to see us do a lot of work around having social media advocates, which are mostly young people and women, give them that opportunity to be able to express themselves, to be able to actively participate and contribute in ensuring that they get the kind of governance and the kind of democracy that they love. Another part of my work with the Connecting Villages initiative required that I engage more in rural communities, especially women and girls within those communities that do not have access to digital platforms, off internet now. We get to have them learn how to use computers in case they get opportunity to go to urban areas, so it doesn't become a problem for them. You see some of them come from rural areas, and then when they go to take jam, using the computer becomes a disadvantage. So we take that knowledge to them within their rural communities, and that's that.
Well, thank you so much, colleagues at Youth Hub. It's been quite interesting following the conversation, great work, and lovely to hear what you're doing as well in advancing digital rights, digital inclusion. I think together we can, different ways and take meaningful strides towards enhancing the environment for digital rights and digital inclusion. So thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of the conversations and engagements. And I think the next session is all set and ready to start on time in the next 5 minutes or so. So everyone, please remain with us as we continue to interact and engage on digital rights and inclusion.